Hello, I'm Scott. Welcome to Deep Dive with Logos. In this series, I've demonstrated many of the key features and tools in Logos 10. People ask me all the time, Scott, what is the best thing about Logos? And my answer is always time savings. Being able to search hundreds or even thousands of books in seconds with Logos is incredible. And searching for biblical insight in Logos is way better than doing that on the internet. However, you may have run into a little problem searching in Logos. Too many search results. The other day I wanted to find the word atonement in my Logos library of almost 8,000 books, and Logos found 85,000 results and 40,000 articles and 3,800 resources. Ouch. So to solve this problem, there's an amazing tool in Logos called Collections. This tool allows you to easily search a particular author, preferred resource, or type of book. Sometimes I just want to know, what did Tim Keller say about marriage? Or what did my systematic theology say about atonement? Or where can I find information about culture in my theological journals? The Collections tool allows you to create mini libraries within your Logos, allowing you to be more specific about what you want to search. And two other tools that work great with searching and using Collections are Favorites and History. I will demonstrate both of those for you as well. Let me share my screen and show you these three great tools in Logos 10. Now, before I show you again the benefit of the Collections tool, let me show you the problem that Collections hopes to solve. I'm going to click here and open up the search dialog box, and I'm in a books search, not in an all search Bible. I'm in a books search. And if I type in the word atonement, hit enter, and again, in my demo version of Logos that I've created these deep dive videos, I have about 8,000 books, and I have too many results. You can group your results by book, author, type, and so on, but there we have it, 86,000 results in 39,000 articles from 3,800 books and resources. Too much. So I've created a mini library or collection inside of my Logos where I pulled my systematic theologies, my dogmatic type books, and this is how you get to it. Right now I'm searching all books, and that's where we get too many results sometimes. So I'm going to click the words all books. And you'll notice if you've created collections, they will show up here under the heading of collections. And there is the collection I've created called Theology and Doctrine. Again, this is a collection of books that are primarily my biblical theologies, systematic theologies, and so on. Now, if we look here, and again, you can group them by author, book, series, and so on. But 8,465 results from 3,000 articles in 172 resources, much easier and more manageable. And these are the books I want to go with a term like atonement or Trinity or omniscience or revelation, right? It's a big theological idea. I want to go to more of my theological type books. So that's the value of collections. So now that you've seen me use a collection that I've created, the value of that, let's create a few collections. So I'm going to close my search box here. I'm going to go to tools. Now, collections is a favorite tool of mine, so I have pinned it to the top. But if you've not done that, scroll down to the section of, again, tools called library, and there you'll find collections, favorites, and history. So let's create a collection. Now, the one person that has had a profound impact on my walk with the Lord, probably more so than any other pastor, writer, teacher, was the late Tim Keller. We lost Tim this year, huge loss in my opinion. But Tim Keller, profound impact. And I have a lot of Tim Keller resources. I've got books, I've got a sermon archive. And a lot of times I want to know, what did Tim Keller say about something? So I'm going to create a collection called Tim Keller. Now, what's great about the rule, I want to create this collection of Tim Keller books, and the rule gets you there quickly. So the rule for an author is simply to type the word author : type the last name of the author, and there we see 4 books that are automatically added to the collection that I'm creating called Tim Keller. Now, as I scroll down, I see Counterfeit Gods, Every Good Endeavor. There's Tim Keller Sermon Archive, but I do see a book here called The Harvard Classic. It's a German fiction book by Gottfried Keller. Okay, that's not Tim, maybe a distant cousin. I don't want that as part of my collection. So I want you to notice that you can drop books in here to add to a collection, or you can drop books in here to subtract them from a collection. I don't want this book as part of my Tim Keller collection. So I simply drag that title to minus these books. It's no longer part of my Tim Keller collection. Now I'm going to show you the value of plus these books. Why would you do that? How do you do that? But for the moment, let me close this collection now. You don't have to hit save. It just automatically does that. And let's go into search, and let's go back to all books, which is what most of you are doing when you get too many results. And I type in, let's say, the word marriage, hit enter again in my demo version of Logos, in which I'm doing the deep dive videos. I've got 8,000 some titles. So the word marriage is probably everywhere, but as I scroll through the different ways to look at my search results, author type and so on, right up there, 152,000 results from 60,000 articles from almost 5,000 books. Okay, might be helpful, but I want to know, what did Tim Keller say in his books and in his sermon archive about marriage? So again, click all books to change that. Your collections will show up down here, and there is the collection I just created called Tim Keller. And instantaneously, I now see, let's go by book. There's the 3 books. I have a sermon archive, Counterfeit Gods, and there is where the word marriage shows up in Tim's sermon archive, where the word marriage shows up in Counterfeit Gods, and so on. So a lot of times I want to know, what did Tim Keller say about this? What did Robert Smith say about preaching in the books I have for him? What did Randy Alcorn say about something? So again, favorite author, you can create a collection simply by going to collections and creating one for an author. Now let me show you a new author collection. So let's go back to tools. Again, Scott's Pen collections to the top. And I want to create one for the author, John Calvin. Okay, now obviously we've already done this once. The rule would be author : Calvin. And as I do that, I look at the immediate results from the rule. I have 31 books in my Logos library. And the first one is a devotional, 365 Days with Calvin by Joel Beek, using John Calvin's materials. That's why it showed up. But I don't want that as part of my John Calvin collection. So again, I'm going to minus that book. And there we see the books written by John Calvin that I want in this collection. But I remembered as I was prepping for this deep dive that I'm going to go ahead and open up my library over here, that I have a book, a magazine actually, because I've purchased numerous magazines in Logos. And I have a magazine from Christian History, the Christian History magazine, that deals with this issue, 120, deals with Calvin, Counsels, and Confessions. I would like that resource, that magazine, it can be any book, want it to be part of this collection. So again, I'm going to drag the book to plus these books. So think this through. Maybe you're creating a collection for an author, and you might have biographical work or a magazine about this particular author. So this is where plus these books is valuable. I open up my library and I add books that weren't populated through the rule of author : and again, the last name. So that's what plus these books does as you create a collection. We already know what minus these books does for you as well. So that's the easy way to create a collection for an author. But let me go ahead and close out everything, and let's go back into collections. And I want to create a collection, not on an author, but a type of book, or maybe something that shows up in a title of a book. And what I mean by that is I would like to create a collection of all my Christian counseling books. So I'm going to call this Christian counseling. And the rule isn't author. There is no author Christian counseling. The rule is title. So the word title colon, and I figured if the word counsel shows up in the title of one of my books, most likely it is a counseling title. And as we scroll down, yes, they are. Now, I usually take the time to scroll through every single title. And again, if there's a book I don't want as part of a collection I'm creating, I would drag it over to minus these books. But that's how simple it is to create a collection called Christian Counseling. Title, colon, and then the word. So again, where's the benefit? I'm going to close this out. I'm going to go to search. I'm going to go ahead and go back to all books. And again, type in the word anxiety, and the struggle is real. Again, give Logos a couple seconds. That is entirely too many resources, right? So I want to search just my new collection of counseling books, and that's more manageable. And most likely it's what you needed to counsel on the subject of anxiety. I don't want to know where the word is everywhere. I want to take that word and go to a particular type of book, author, and so on. So that's the power again of collections. Now, if you're wondering what are all the various rules, Scott used author, Scott used title. If you go up to the right corner, let's go back to collections, open up collections. In the right corner, you'll see those three little dots, and right there is help about this feature. This will show up for all the tools in Logos. So if you ever open a tool in Logos and you want to know, what is this tool? What can I do with this tool? Top corner, three little boxes, help about this feature. And there you'll see how you create collections. And here are some of the ways that you can focus on a type, an author, a subject, and so on. But this would be a great help for you in creating collections and what are the various collections that you can create. So that's the power of collections. Now, let's go to the second feature I wanted to show you that kind of works in line with collections, and it's favorites. So if you haven't pinned it to the top, again, scroll down to the section under tools called library, and there is favorites. Now, favorites, if I don't show you this, you're going to get a little lost in Logos, if you will. Meaning if you don't have a place to put all the great discoveries in Logos, it can get overwhelming. You know, I find something, I want to put it somewhere so I can go back to it later. So I liken it to old school days of a file cabinet where you'd put in, you know, your receipts and papers and things. So you're going to create a favorite system inside of Logos. Many of you watching have done that with the internet. If I was to see your web browser at the top, you've got your folders. You know, I've got finance, hobbies, what else? Ministry, and so on and so forth. So again, when you find a great website with a great recipe, you know, I put that to my cooking or recipes folder. So this is a feature in Logos that you really want to be a bit obsessive about, meaning think through the way that you use Logos and study using Logos. So I created for part of the deep dive, a folder simply by, you just say add, you say new folder, and you give it a title. So I'm going to call this folder Scott, right? And you can have subfolders. So I can say add new folder, and Scott wants to do some research in Logos about prayer. So again, folders, subfolders, you can drag and drop and restructure. Your folders can have subfolders, and those folders can have more subfolders. So you can be very structured in how you create your favorites. But I created a folder called Deep Dive because I want you to see that not only can you drag and drop books. So I went in here and I typed in the word deep things and fact book and found this great concept or article, opened up this article from ISB on deep things. And again, that was great. I want to put it somewhere for later. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the book cover and I'm going to drag it to deep dive. Okay. Now, I've already done it once, so it did it again. If you ever put something in there that you don't want in there, you can simply right click. You can rename the title. I can delete it. So again, you've got full right and reign for structure, name change, and so on. But watch, if I close this out and I even drug the whole fact book search for deep things into the deep dive folder. So tomorrow, if I want to get back to the study on deep things, I can either click instantly the fact book search, and there it is. Or again, I can click the article from the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. So what I want you to see is not only, and it would make sense that you would drag your books, the articles you find, things you discover, but you can also drag in tools and features and fact book and search results. There's really nothing you can't drag into these folders. You can actually drag websites. If you've got multiple monitors and you're doing a series and you found some website that was helpful, you can drag that URL to the folder. You can drag documents to the folder. So again, it's not just things in Logos, your discovery in Logos. You can drag websites, documents, and so on. So let's look at some of the folders that I've created. I love good one-liners or quotes. And so I click here and I've got a great quote by C.S. Lewis, one of my favorites, as we read here, I believe in Christianity as I believe that the sun is risen, not only because I see it, but because by it, I see everything else. Love that quote. So I created a folder called quotes. And anytime I find a good one-liner, such as Chesterton or Dr. Robert Smith, I found this one the other day that I would love to share. I've highlighted it in orange. It is impossible for the preacher to bring up information to the first floor of articulation when the basement of preparation is bare and empty. Ouch. Love that quote. So again, all I did was I just drug the book cover, over to the folder. You can drag the whole tab, but I just get in the practice of dragging the cover or the icon that represents the feature right into the appropriate folder. So there's my quotes folder. Let's say you're watching and you're going to write a book. Okay. And you can drag this open if you need a little bit more real estate to see all that you have in your favorites folders. So I'm going to drag a little bit. That's a new feature, actually. You weren't able to do that in the past. So I love the fact that I can stretch that out. But I'm, let's say, going to write a book on the fruit of the Spirit. So here are all my chapters, love, joy, peace, patience. And so for the next few months, as I'm doing my research and I find great information on love, articles, books, searches, I drag it to the appropriate folder. And again, it's not just dragging books. I did a search from my preferred translation on the word love. And again, I just clicked the link and there's the search result. I went to the theology guide and did a little study on God's love, said, wow, that's great information. And I drug the theology guide over there. I did a little word study on the word agape. And so again, I drug that. So again, it's not just books, it's features, it's tools. Yes, it is books. So I found some great articles or great little one-liners or parts of a book that talked about love. And if I felt, hey, that would be good for me as I write this book, I drug it to the appropriate folder. Sermons, for all you preachers and pastors, I would highly encourage you to create your first folder, maybe is sermons, and maybe create 2024 and then January and February and so on and so forth, but have a structured way in which when you use Logos and you find something for that sermon you're going to preach next March, you know where to drag it so that it's there waiting for you, maybe February when you start building that message. So create a folder called searches. I've even created a folder where I've got a little geeky in my logos where I've created my favorite Boolean search examples. This is a very powerful tool in logos, but I didn't want to recreate those queries. And so I did the search and drug it over, and then I fill in the words, and it's a very, very powerful feature in logos. But I wanted to kind of plant some seeds on what you can do in favorites. Another idea for anyone that's a student, maybe you're in Bible college, seminary, but if I was in my real logos, not my demo account, when I was in seminary, I went to Knox Theological Seminary. I created a folder called Knox, and then every single class, I think a total of 30 something classes, I created a folder for every class. Every week had a class. Everything I read, I would drag to the appropriate folder. And now it's a great thing that I continue to use to this day, even though I graduated many years ago, because I have everything I read, everything I studied, everything I searched in its appropriate folder. So if you're in school, again, be obsessive about favorites, because it will pay huge dividends down the road as you continue to build out your file cabinet system, if you will, called favorites. So very powerful tool. Real quickly, application, you'll notice mobile favorites. Now, you didn't create that. I didn't create that. When you save anything on a mobile device, you have one folder called favorites, and everything gets deposited here. So once a month, I go into here, I open it up, and all the things on my mobile device that I just said, add to favorites, I just take them from here, and then I put them in their appropriate folder down below. And that's a good point as well. Synchronization. So when I created the folder called Scott and Deep Dive, if I go to my Logos app right now and open it up and go right to the right side to the toolbars and go to favorites, there is Scott, there is Deep Dive. Automatically Logos creates that for you. So automatically synchronizing across your devices. Again, favorites is a huge feature in Logos that I think a lot of people don't fully utilize. Lastly, let me close all and show you a problem that history solves. How many of you have been using Logos? Maybe you're building a message, you're writing a book, a blog post, and you found something last Thursday that was awesome. And now you can't for the life of you remember where was that awesome gold nugget that I found in a book, or maybe it was a tool you were using, or so on. So you have a master history in Logos. So simply go here, 3 little dots in the corner, or again, tools, and then scroll down to the header of library, and there you'll see collections, favorites, history. But when you open up history, everything that we've done in the last 10, 15 minutes is right here. We did a little search on anxiety. We created a collection called Counseling Guide. I went to this great little one-liner from Orthodoxy, right? So again, everything you've done in Logos is right here in a master history tool called history. So again, if you forgot, where did you find that thing last week or yesterday sometimes, or maybe even an hour ago, you can go to history and it will be right there for you.